I want to begin the regular board meeting by starting off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Everybody rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randy and Kim, we're good with roll call?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the May 23rd, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second? Excellent, and then we'll move into the Board of Education spotlight, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Thompson.
Thank you, sir.
Got to vote on the agenda.
We do, I'm sorry. On the agenda. Back to the agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Apologize for that, and now we will move on to the board spotlight, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Thompson.
Thank you, sir. The Board of Education would like to recognize and honor the following Baldwinsville Central School District students for their outstanding achievements and accomplishments. Zane Woodworth, a first grader at Eldon Elementary School, won the state championship in the New York Wrestling Association for Youth in March. He also took second place in nationals in Michigan and has earned the All-American Wrestler. He's 53-3. He's so proud to bring home the Eagle Medal for the state of New York. Congratulations, Zane. The second student that we would like to recognize is Graham Bradford. He's being recognized for going above and beyond at the Special Champions event on Monday, May 16th, 2022 at Peller Arkall Stadium. Graham's actions during the event were extraordinary and appreciated. Graham is a senior at C.W. Baker High School. Congratulations, Graham.
I'm going to take a picture of the three of you if you want to take pictures to get out of here.
Appreciate all your help. Thank you all. I'm usually the tall one.
Do you want to put these around
Take a knee here.
Yeah, we're going to have to lower it. There you go, Jonathan. All right, everyone give me a smile. Awesome.
Congratulations.
I will say, Zane, that 53-3 is incredible. Incredible. When I was in the first grade, I don't even know if I could walk in a straight line. So 53-3 is definitely incredible. And Graham, I apologize because I was not at the Special Champions event, but everyone I talked to says that you were amazing. You were amazing. So congratulations to both of you guys. Now moving on to the correspondence and board activities report. We had quite a bit going on the last couple of weeks. On May 9th, we had a Board of Education work session, which we talked about the super eval for our superintendent. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that? Moving on. Also on May 10th, we had a wellness committee meeting, a virtual meeting. We have a couple members on that. Anything from them?
I can speak. I was at that, but I was really, as you were as well, I was just going to comment that the Wellness Committee is here to give their report on this year's events. And it was directed a lot towards the policy, creation of the policy with Tristan Flood and the other members on the committee. And I'm assuming a lot of what we've talked about will be incorporated into their report this evening. But Jen, do you have anything else to add?
No, just about the wellness inquiry, which Kristen will probably talk about tonight. Just like my biggest takeaway from that was, it's been a really tough couple of years, and one of the things that we had mentioned that if our teachers aren't able to take care of themselves, they're not able to help our students. We need to make them feel a little more focused, onto the mental health of our teachers so they can help our kids be successful. So I look forward to hearing about that report. I'm sure Chris will do a great job presenting.
Okay, on May 10th, we also had the Meet the Candidates night and the public budget hearing. That night I was in attendance, and I think there were 7 candidates who spoke, and I thought they were all very good. I thought they all spoke on the reasons why they wanted to run, what they felt about the district, and everything went well for them in the public budget hearing with Kim and Joe and Jason giving us the information on how the budget went very well that evening. Anybody else have anything?
I would just like to reiterate, thank you for everybody who ran, and thank you to the community for all of the support and the engagement. And it's great to have a community care about their school district, what direction we're going, so thank you.
On May 12th, we had a school visit, the Board of Education Superintendent visit to Ray Middle School. Anybody?
Both Jen and I were able to attend with Superintendent Thompson, and Christina Morgan and Mike Pope helped lead the tour. As I've said in all of the different tours I've been on this year, it was really fantastic. And Ray, a lot of the teachers had prepared their students to let them know that we were coming in, and they were eager to have us in there. We saw some science classes going on. I think there was a math class, very engaging, and it was just a really good feeling to get in there to see how the kids work on a day-to-day basis and all the teachers do for the students. So thank you for making those tours happen.
Shelley, you have your pen up thinking in the art room?
Got one up on me, Jen. I forgot it. Yes, very nice gifts from some of the art students.
Yeah, very, very talented, and we saw it was very nice to go into the classroom to see all of the student engagement. Music room, as Shelley said, the science room, they're playing toys. It was a great day to watch them working on that. It was a very well done tour, and we appreciate the time that Christina gave us.
Oh. Okay, on May 16th, we had an audit committee meeting. Anything you want to read out on that?
I can do that. We just reviewed the independent audit and the corrective action plan. We also took a look at the year-end reserve suggestions, and both of those items we discussed later on in the agenda this evening.
We also had a facilities committee meeting that afternoon.
Facilities Committee, we, well, first of all, we thank the public for their support in our current capital project, and then we talked about the next phases that we anticipate putting up in the next few years. That was primarily the emphasis. Obviously, we got reports on our current projects that are ongoing, that we do every year, but that was the main thrust of it, is looking ahead at what we've got coming down the road.
And we talked about presenting those. That's on the agenda for today, right? Or is, yes, a little later.
Oh, no, actually, if we're gonna do it, this
Oh,
would be
do
the
it right
time,
now.
Jeff, if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's some exciting ideas that were thrown around for the different phases. I'd be happy to do you want to run through this, Kim? I don't need to. I can if you want.
Sure, if you wanna start and we can chime in, that'd be great.
Okay. So the thought really is, we talked about, you know, somehow having the vision of all the projects for the next, well, you can see right there, out to 2035. So kind of laying out kind of a vision for where we're headed over the next several years. But with funding, we have to kind of break those up. So, and Kim could fill in where I get things wrong, but basically, because of the cost allowances and minimizing the impact to the community, really take advantage of focusing on Baker next. And some of the exciting ideas there, we're potentially looking at some ideas for the pool, building a new one, science wings, completely revamping all the science wings that are, you know, significantly old, but also doing some of the Ray renovations that we had in the original plan before we went out for vote. So the scope didn't change on those Ray renovations, and then doing all the field work on campus to get, you know, the softball over, to get multi-use fields for several different sports, plus like the band and things like that to use, where the current practice field is and the baseball field, turning all that into multi-use stuff. So that would be what we focus on going forward, with a targeted vote, unfortunately a year and a half from now, but there's a lot to do in that year and a half to get to a December 23 vote. And then all the elementary stuff going into these projects 3, 4, and 5, once we kind of decide some path forward on, you know, combining buildings, new buildings, moving 7th grade over to Durgee at some point, lots of reconfiguration. So those ones out a bit farther, and you can see even potentially grouping those 3 projects, all the elementary stuff, and Durgee additions, moving them into a vote, combining them all into a December 2026 vote, but actually the funding being in 3 different projects so they can be spread out and minimize the impact. So that's kind of where we're headed. Lots of work to do to start. I don't think we have another facility committee this school year, so who's ever on that committee next year can certainly start shaping this a bit more, but lots of good ideas for the next one coming up.
Yeah, I think that the year and a half vote is actually going to be next year, looking at potentially doing that in May, so we don't have to call the voters out at two different times for votes. And then those last 3 are kind of just very rough ideas for now, but having one project and a domino effect really puts us in a position to want to go to the voters with a bigger picture and umbrella of what we want to do and how that would fit into the tax impact.
One of the exciting parts that they found was with that pool, putting that where these, what do you call that, the small gym? But they just did, one of the contractor, I can't remember, King & King, those companies did a project. They basically took the footprint of that project, which most of the design work's been done, and then dropped it into that same space, and it fits perfectly. So the benefit of fitting within the current footprint is, Kim can explain, it's good for us.
Get a higher aid ratio because it's a renovation.
Yes, it's a renovation, not a new building, even though we basically tear it down to the ground and start over, but because it's the same footprint, we can take advantage of that. And then where the current pool is, you know, adding almost another third to the current gym space, which opens up a lot of
Now, I
opportunities.
think you have that coming off for that second proposed project too as well, right? So that we would have that going on as that one comes off, so the timing for that too.
Some exciting things for, you know, we're talking about a completion here of like 2026, but getting the ball rolling so that we get those projects in. So anyway, I'll hand it over to Kim to correct anything.
Right, so a few things that were touched on that I think are important is we're really trying to maximize our ability to generate aid back to the district is the easiest way to explain it and quickest way. There's a multi-factor approach in regards to making that happen. So that goes into the planning phase of spreading things out, because with the Durkee project, our maximum cost allowance will take 5 years to renew. So we need to pause on working at Durkee initially and move into our other buildings and make sure we're maximizing the ability to generate that aid back. The other thing I would point out is even with this drawing and with the first diagrams that we're looking at with movement, this is all very, very preliminary at this point. We kind of went back to the drawing board with our team, you know, and I think at this point we're really looking to make sure that we're still going in the right direction and that we can really hit the ground running. And I appreciate Matt's comment as well, because we did have a very successful budget vote, very successful capital project vote, all of our propositions. So do we go out with, if we're maximizing our aid and having a very small impact to our taxpayers, do we go out with another capital project vote next May as opposed to asking our voters to come out again in the fall or later on? So those are all discussions that once we complete our reorg meeting and develop our new facilities committee, we will be hitting the ground running. But this meeting really allowed our contractors, our architect team to go back to the drawing board and really start looking at some of these things so that we can move forward quickly.
Well, the issue at state at facilities department too, and the length of time it's taking to get projects approved is also going to affect these projects, because we got reports on current projects that have already been approved and ones that we're working on, and I think they're still waiting for state final approval on some of them.
I just wanted to say I appreciate everybody going back, and I'm so excited to hear that the pool is a possibility and that everything that wasn't on this capital project looks like it's been included in the future projects. So that's exciting. And I'm excited that to hear maximizing state aid, so it's a lower tax impact. So thank you for working on that.
All righty, very in-depth report, Facilities Committee, thank you for that. On May 17th, we had the public budget vote and the school board elections. I think that the election and the vote and everything, it was handled very professionally by the volunteers that come in, by the district staff, by everybody involved. It was handled very professionally, and it looked like there were no issues to me. I don't know if anybody else. And on May 19th, we had a DEI committee meeting.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, it was kind of just more or less a wrap up of the year, kind of evaluating some of the goals that we had for the year, so that Renee and Tony could then bring that back to cabinet and kind of talk about the work of the committee and start to think about next year. Joan, did I miss anything?
Well, I was just going to say that I think one of the emphasis we had, again, was getting PTAs in all the buildings involved and explain it to them, and so that they can do more discussions on the building level, which are limited this year. I think we ended up grading ourselves a B, maybe, all the way around, something like that.
And before this meeting tonight, we had a policy committee meeting.
So we pretty much made it through policy 3280 and the 3000 series. We updated those. There weren't any major changes. And we talked about our foreign language policy. The number is escaping me right now. Yeah, the travel policy, thank you. Anything else?
We also discussed, that was policy 1140, I believe, board member, I don't have it off the top, the board member requirements, maybe that's the title of it. There was some discussion at a previous meeting about the wording and the length of a term for a member, but that was clarified, and that, I believe it's going to be up for the next reading, the first reading, excuse me, Joe, at our next Board of Education meeting.
And we also, before this meeting tonight, had a public hearing on code of conduct and the safety plan. Alrighty, and upcoming events we have. On May 25th, we have the CNY SBA annual dinner meeting at the Lodge at Hill-Rom. On Friday, May 27th, there is no school for students leading into May 30th Memorial Day holiday, where the district office will also be closed. On May 31st, we have a special board meeting for the superintendent's evaluation here at the Transportation Center. On June 6th, we have the retiree reception before our regular board meeting. On Wednesday, June 8th, we have a Board of Education superintendent visit to Van Buren Elementary at 1:30. On June 8th, Wednesday, June 8th, we have a joint PTA officers meeting at 6:30 at the Transportation Center. Monday, June 20th is Juneteenth. District offices are closed. Friday, June 24th is the Baker High School class of 2022 graduation here at the campus at Pelcher Arcadia Stadium at 7 with the makeup day of Saturday, June 25th. Hopefully the weather cooperates this year.
Brian,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a couple things. I've been pretty busy with different professional development I just want to share out with the group. I attended the NISBA policy workshop, and this policy is titled Student Staff Freedom of Expression, Redevelop Students from Our Courts and Legislature. And even though it's talked about for staff, it just actually focused on the students. And we went through a lot of like case law and how we got to where we are now. I think the key point was that nobody sheds their rights at the gate of a school, and the biggest challenge right now is, you know, what constitutes, you know, the realm of a school district, especially with this issues with the internet and the cyber stuff. One thing that they did want to emphasize with all the court changes and a lot of back and forth is data is still alive. You can't bully or harass, you can't do threats against teachers and students, and you know, the failure to follow rules on like cheating and hacking and things like that. They also talked about the Crown Act, creating a respectful and open world for natural hair, went through a bunch of examples for that, and also addressed the code of conduct, making sure the rules aren't vague and you're not writing it especially where it's for exclusionary purposes. I also was asked by the Van Buren Elementary third grade teachers to visit. They're doing a unit on local government, and they asked me to come in and talk about the role of a school board and how it impacts them. The kids were fantastic. They had tons of questions. They were very well prepared, so kudos to the teachers. And I had about 20 minutes. Superintendent Thompson was there with me, and it was amazing. As they were filing out, they were still trying to ask questions to get their questions answered when they left. So it was really great to see them engaged and so curious about what we do. And then the last thing, I attended a full day workshop on collection, selection, and objection, covering books with a focus on school libraries. And there are about 700 people across the state who sat on that, and I believe Jason said Renee Burnett sat on that as well. And one of the topics was censorship, facing the challenges. And basically, the school librarian's job is one of the things that they do is help us align the curriculum needs and provide diversity for all the students, so there's balance. And one way to also get any material in there that's not learned in the curriculum is, you know, just seeing what the students are interested in and making sure that it's a well-balanced library. The part that had to do with Board of Education members and why there was an invite out to us was the legal foundations component of the workshop. Free speech is protected by the First Amendment and the state constitution, and they said that school districts need to have a team when there's challenges to books, which we do have that. And they really emphasize that boards of education cannot arbitrarily remove books. However, they said people have a right to challenge them, but the challenge must come from people within the district. And let's see, they talked about that people always have a right to challenge whether there's a policy in place or not. However, having a policy in place gives us structure to the evaluation process, which is very important. They did recommend that libraries have internal policies for things such as how they're selecting their books, how they shelve their books, and those sorts of things. And they said that could be different depending upon what level the librarian is in, what building they're working in. They focus on the policies that we've been working on, the 8110, how important that is. Let's see, read the policies, make sure I have all my notes here. No one loses their First Amendment right on either side of a controversial issue. And they said that we can provide an alternative text, and that the AP actually does allow that as well. They suggested we make sure the students don't come up with a solution to the issues, and we're always presenting both sides, which is right in line with the policy that we just created. And then there's a panel of teachers that, or librarians have spoken to different challenges that they've had, which we've been seeing in our own boardroom. You know, one teacher or parent contesting a book where the child wasn't in the class, another where a child was in the class, and another one actually where fellow teachers contested a book. So that was pretty interesting. But I think the big takeaway was that the policies in place are incredibly important, whether they're at the board level or the internal policies that they're written in the library level. So when these challenges are brought before us, everything's consistent and we have something to go back on. And I would say, you know, we worked really hard as a policy committee this year to bring these policies to the full board. And after going to this workshop, it really solidifies and makes me very confident that we did the job we were supposed to do this year. And I think it's going to be much better for everyone going forward. And that's all I have. So there's been a busy week. Well, actually, Joan, I haven't met the wellness committee here, but I wasn't able to stay for the whole meeting. Can you share some of the stuff that happened in that one, or are you not ready?
The mental wellness, it is still, there wasn't much more except they're going to be encouraging people to stay on that was still interested in it, but it's still, a lot of the mental wellness committee was students talking, and actually staff people and there's social workers there too, talking about the number of times they've had to sit down and talk with students of all levels and areas, anxiety and stress. And they did talk about, one of them came out with a, what was that called, Stanker, or the one program for coping, because they all asked for coping skills, because if, you know, your teacher, you're not really trained in some of that to help them, you send them to the right people, but I think they all said the same thing, and this was actually a DEI committee too, that a lot of staff and students as well need some coping strategies. They're also going to continue with the mental health first aid, and they're going to offer it to parents again in another class. At least they just had one last year, so they're hoping they can do another one this year on that. So moving on to that, so I had a CNY SBA meeting Saturday morning. It was real quick. We had to approve our audit, and we're going to be going over our budget. We also, the governance training, they're all set and ready for that, and hopefully we have some people, some of the new candidates that we have are going to there. They just did a Pathways to Career that was successful at Oswego, and we approved new officers for the next 2 years. So I'm vice president. So, and we had both these, we talked about the Regents scoring the appeal process, and not providing a score for APPR, but the one thing that Dr. Cook mentioned was they're trying to get a clarification of the special ed appeals that might be possible, since actually the appeal process for Regent scoring is similar to what it was for special ed before, so they're looking to see if they're going to have something additional for special ed or get clarification on it. So more to come on that.
Excellent, thank you for that, Joan. Thank you for that, Jim. And that takes us right into the.
Brian, before we
Brian,
move
wait.
on.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
did one thing too.
My fault.
So, we had a young man recognized tonight for going above and beyond at Special Champions, and I was actually at the Special Champions, which is why I'm wearing my champion shirt. And I will tell you that he was not just above and beyond, he was absolute rock star status. That young man is a rock star. And all those kids who volunteered, every single one of them, it was just, pure joy, pure elation, unprompted assisting. There was classes there supporting their classmates, cheering them on. The crowd was really going wild. It was, you see the families coming there to support their student athletes, the joy that they get in seeing their children and friends and family succeeding and exceeding at those types of events. There was a young lady there who sang the national anthem just beautifully. There was a young man who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We had Coach there to do the announcing. We had and then most importantly, I think, is when you look at the kids there was just joy, there was pride, there was camaraderie, there was effort, and there was these kids, they wanted to win, and you just saw things that for me, and I've said it before, these are things that will stay with me for the rest of my life. We do a lot on this board, we have a lot of meetings, we spend a lot of time, but for me, that's what makes it worth it. So I want to thank Jason, I want to thank Joe, Dave, Rocco, who I don't see here tonight. I want to thank every single teacher that was there, that was, it was not cold, and it was not humid. So they were out there running with the kids and just being there with them, and the pure joy was really just palpable, and it was probably one of the best events that I've been to in a very long time. I went last year. Because of COVID, because of that, it was certainly not up to that level, and not because of our administration or our staff, but because of the pandemic. I am going to task, and I don't know how you guys are going to do it, but two things. One, I don't know how you're going to make it better, because it was phenomenal. Two, can you pick a day that it's not going to rain? Please. But really, thank you so much. Just, and I can't say it enough. And to Graham, who was here, let's take a look at who we did the sports spotlight to. We had Zane, first grader, just getting into the school. And then we have Graham, who we're releasing him out of the hive. How does that look for our district? Like, that's what we have on the bookends here. Like, so it's just something to be proud of, and I thank all of you for doing that. So
I want to thank Sarah for live streaming it.
yes, the photos, if you get a chance to look at the photos, go look at them. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Oh, and Scooch, he was there too, Scooch.
I just wanted to say in reference to what Tony just said, when I saw the pictures, they were not posed pictures. They were truly engaged and just highlighted their smiles and their enthusiasm and their joy to be there. So Sarah, kudos to you with those pictures and capturing those wonderful, wonderful memories for everybody. And I personally know Graham Bradford, so it was a great honor for me to have him be recognized tonight, because he is like that even outside his school district. Many other activities and programs that I know him through and his family through, he is up there cheering on people he doesn't even know. So kudos to the whole event.
I was going to talk to that too, but you guys did a fantastic job. So I'll also highlight, I attended an orchestra, band, and chorus concert, and it was amazing to be in person for that, because we haven't had that since with COVID. So many families commented on how impressive it was. So that was for McNamara. And then I also attended the Derby Junior High National Honor Junior Society. TJ and the teachers involved did a fantastic job, and so congratulations to all those students, and thank you to them for putting that on. It was great to be in person for those.
As well as the high school orchestra concert, well attended, well played, so kudos to all the orchestra teachers that put all that work into that. Saturday we had a great event at the baseball field. Superintendent was in attendance there, but the district inducted, actually it ended up being a surprise, 2 people into the Sports Hall of Fame, Jason Grilly, and then the surprise was his dad, got inducted in with him, I think, to Jason's urging because of all the support that he's given both to Jason himself plus the district. So it was a great event, another great win for Baldwinsville after the induction ceremony. So good time at Buddy Ball.
One last comment on BOE events. Following up with Lisa with the National Junior Honor Society, I was able to be in attendance of that, and I was very proud of all of our students. There's a large population of students that have met the requirements for that. And I'm also kudos to our district. There's a lot of districts that I'm learning around us that do not have a Junior National Honor Society. It just starts at the high school level. So I applaud our district for having that chapter within the organization for our students to meet those levels at such a young age.
They also had the National Honor Society induction, so that was a well-run event.
Not to go without saying, I also went to an art event at Palmer Elementary School, and there was the orchestra playing there, which I don't know, my kids sat, both of them found a seat, sat front and center to listen, and then to see the art of these little children is just, I still can't draw a stick figure, and they're making sculptures out of clay, like so. So that was a really great event too, so I thank the school and the administration for that.
There are definitely a lot of things that went on lately. I thank you guys for catching me before I skipped over everything. My apologies on that. Anything else from anybody else? Good to go? All right, so that brings us into the student board report with Ms. Kaylee Evans, but she was not able to join us tonight because she is at her last senior chorus concert, but she was nice enough to send me a copy of her report so that I could read it to everybody. So bear with me, I'm gonna try to do it as well as she does. With just a few weeks left of school, students are finally beginning to wind down and prepare for the summer. All AP testing is over and final grades are just around the corner. Baker's band concert was Friday, May 20th, where both the jazz band and the concert band performed. Our seniors were recognized and awards were given out. This year's final Baker concert is tonight at 7 p.m. The chamber and concert choirs will perform, and past alumni were invited to perform a song with the chorus. Chorus students from both the class of 2020 and the class of 2021 didn't get to perform a final concert, so this is especially exciting for those students who will attend tonight to perform with us. Senior art students have begun Senior art students have begun putting together their senior art displays. The Senior Art Showcase reception will be this Thursday, May 26th, from 5:30 to 7 at Baker. All are invited to attend and see the displays. The following Thursday is the Culture Fest, which will take place at 5 p.m. in the Baker Library. The Senior Ball is also coming on June 11th, and tickets are being sold until this Thursday. As a safety reminder to students, School Resource Officer Jenna Catrini is hosting a mock DWI experience for senior students at C.W. Baker High School. The event will be held at approximately 1 p.m. on the lawn in front of the Baker High School athletic entrance number 2. This experience is intended to educate and warn students of the dangers of driving while impaired, especially ahead of Senior Ball, which will be held at the On Center in Syracuse on Saturday, June 11th. More exciting news is that Saturday, the Baldwinsville Marching Band will be traveling to Darien Lake for a parade band competition. The following Monday, the band will march in both the Baldwinsville and Jordan Elbridge Memorial Day parades. To wrap up the school year, Moving Up Day will be June 8th at 6:30 p.m. Students receiving awards are invited to attend and bring parents. Tuesday, June 14th is the last day of classes for Durkee and Baker students. The following Tuesday, seniors will come to school for the senior walk, senior picnic, and graduation rehearsal. Graduation for the class of 2022 will be Friday, June 24th. And that is Kaylee's report. Nice as usual. All right. And that brings us into request to speak. Is it?
We have one request to speak this evening.
Okay. All right. Public comments are welcome. They are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 30 minutes for all speakers combined. They should not include specific individuals or positions. Unless appropriate, the Board of Education will respond by letter to the individual's comment or question. Board members will not engage in conversation or comment during this period. Specific employee or student concerns should be communicated to the superintendent of schools during regular business hours. If there are more than 5 individuals speaking on the same issue, please limit the topic to just 5 speakers of your choice as a group. We are all here for our students, and it is expected that everyone speaking tonight will follow these rules, and everyone present will model the behaviors that are expected of the students in the school district. The public is also invited to listen to the meeting live streamed on BCSD website, www.bville.org.
Our one speaker tonight is Kim Kopp, and she's speaking on the budget vote process.
Good evening. My name is Kim Kopp, and I reside at 8160 Mariner Trail in Baldwinsville. First and foremost, thank you for your tireless efforts. And I think tireless is probably the best word that describes a lot of roles, from parenting to board members, etc. To make the best use of my allotted time, I'm going to read directly from my notes. I have a list of questions. Question 1. Why did the district choose to use the sign-in process for voting and not the pre-printed registration books provided by Onondaga County? In using the county-provided registers, there is verification that everyone that votes is 18 years of age, has resided in the district at least 30 days. Surrounding districts, not limited to, but such as Liverpool, Cicero, North Syracuse, Jordan, Elbridge, Onondaga Central, East Syracuse, Manoa, and West Genesee use this process. Question 2. What steps did the district take to verify everyone voting is 18 years or older and has been a resident of the district for at least 30 days? What did the district do to be sure no one voted twice? Question 3, what was the verification process used that all students brought down to vote were 18 years of age? Question 4, how does the district assign poll watchers? When I asked this question, I was informed I could have stood there all day and questioned anyone I chose that I thought was in a violation. My last one is just a comment, it's not a question. I'm just wondering if it would be possible to be sure that the information provided to the voters is crystal clear. I understand when something is super close, you do it day in and day out, you might not look at it from someone else's point. I walk my neighborhood. I encourage people to vote. There's elderly people. I pointed them to the website, and I clearly thought that the absentee voting language was as clear as mud, as they did as well. So I just referred them to the district office. So I wondered if that is just something that could be looked at. In addition, I want to make sure not only that document, but that when a candidate is running for a position, that the information is crystal clear on what they are allowed to do, not allowed to do, spend on a campaign, not spend on a campaign. I would like a response to my questions. I'm requesting that my responses be part of a public portion of a Board of Education meeting, as I believe the information should be available to every taxpayer and every community member. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. We encourage participation from the community. Thank you for your time. And ma'am, you can actually send that to the superintendent's office, and he will take care of that for you, the questions.
I have a copy for Kim. I can
Okay.
do that as well.
All right, moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion?
Move.
And second? All right, any discussion?
I have a question about the funds. So under, for instance, instructional and personnel, it says federal grant funds and then some are the ARP funds. Can you just explain how that gets determined?
Yep. So anything that's summer enrichment, the summer clubs or the summer sport camps that's coming out of the federal funds, we're required to use a portion of that for those activities. And then the others we're anticipating, I believe, for the remainder of the school year, just clubs and activities that have been ongoing.
Anything else? Everybody's good? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 9-0. And that brings us to the leadership report. And I will turn that over to Superintendent Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to invite Brian Wright up at this time. He's going to give us an update on the Wellness Committee as well as school food service update. Thanks, Brian.
So although I'm listed on the wellness, Kristen Foote here has been the leader of the PAC on the content for our wellness committee here. And she's been doing this for 12 years with it, so I'm going to turn it over to Kristen.
So I did provide for you kind of an overview, and actually there is also some information that Christy now added to the executive content, which I'm not really sure what that is, but there's, she had the wellness inquiry results and as well as one of the newsletters. But this year, the District Wellness Committee continued to meet our 4 times. We did meet virtually. It is a group of stakeholders across the district, so to find a common time is tough. We do right now meet at 7 a.m. And it's kind of a juggle because some people have to, be in their duties by 7:30. So we're hoping maybe next year if we can meet in person, it'll offer more opportunity for a little bit more dialogue. And so this year, the school district received a Creating Healthy Schools and Community grant from Onondaga County Health and the New York State Department of Health. And the grant was based on criteria using the BMI and the academic performance. 3 schools qualified in Baldwinsville, which included Ray, Van Buren, and Reynolds. The intention of the grant is to make sustainable environmental changes to create healthy communities. And Jackie Shostak and Michelle Haas from the Department of Health came in and met with us. And Jackie has been talking with, we started with Reynolds. So she's been dialoguing with Colleen, Natalia at Reynolds. They're creating an indoor walking trail and some exercise stations. Food service is also helping to provide startup information to identify needs as well. And this grant will span a 3-year period of time. So we really started this year with Reynolds. We're gonna hope to get into Ray. We talked about maybe even I don't know, if behind the high school, there's kind of a walking trail with little exercise stations. I don't know if I've actually visited it a lot, but it would be kind of nice to have something at Ray. I was really impressed that at Ray this year, the kids were getting outside, which I don't remember, well, I was there 30 years ago, but I think that's awesome that the kids at Ray are able to get outside, and maybe if we do something of that nature at Ray, we can get them out even more.
So one of the things with the grant as well is we're looking at some improving maybe some equipment in the kitchens and such that the part of this grant would finance for us. So we're looking at the potential of some new equipment for cooking food in some of our schools. If you've been in, some of our buildings are pretty tiny in the kitchens, but maybe improving some of the equipment there that gives us a little bit more opportunity to cook in different ways there, maybe using steamers and such like that. So we're hoping that will come through as part of the grant. So we've given the county some specs and such on equipment that we're looking to get to improve the some of the equipment and the opportunity to prepare food differently in the kitchen.
So the goals for this year, the first goal was to review and revise the wellness policy. We were up for our triennial review. And Jackie Shostek and Michelle Haas from the Department of Health did meet with us in August and introduced us to this, to what they call WellSat 3.0. And the WellSat is a quantitative assessment tool that helped us to score and improve the current wellness policy. All the WellSat items reflect best practices in the areas of nutrition education, standards for USDA child nutrition programs, school meals, nutrition standards for competitive and other food and beverages, physical activity, physical education, wellness promotion and marketing, and then how we implement and evaluate and communicate the wellness policy. So this, it was pretty comprehensive. Scoring the policy helped us to identify what changes we need in our policy. So the next step next year will be taking our policy and then using what they call the WellSat 1 to really determine what's happening in our building and look at needs in buildings around the district. So we start with the policy and then we look at practices in the building. We continue, our goal too is to continue to provide resources to staff for use in the classroom, and the Department of Health did offer some nice activities that we did share with the stakeholders so that they could share with their, in their buildings. In the fall newsletter, we did provide sample activities and ideas for classroom use as well. Recreating the policy, I was kind of excited about this. Recreating the policy, I found a snack calculator that will be shared with teachers in the year-end newsletter and then again in the fall. And teachers can give this information to their parents, so that when parents are bringing anything in for celebrations, they can hit the snack calculator and see if it meets the standards. We always make available the Healthy Celebrations document on our Google Classroom. And there's a link to this information in the policy. And I will add that Brian continues to meet with our wellness groups offering smoothies and that sort of thing. There are, and you know, that there are, all of our elementary schools have wellness clubs with a paid advisor, and I included that in the information for you, with the information that talks to what's going on across the district. But it's really neat how each building has its own flavor of what they're doing in the wellness clubs, but they're all doing it, and teachers said that they're getting stronger each year. And I think someone mentioned that the athletic clubs or the participation in the camps this summer, they had more kids sign up than we have staff to man. So that really is kind of a neat thing. And I will tell you, being a substitute, at the high school, but across the elementary schools, one of the most beautiful things is seeing the kids come in from that recess wellness time with red cheeks. I mean, I couldn't get enough of that. I would say to Heather Kowalski, oh my gosh, just look at this. So I think there is some good, healthy behaviors going on out there. And this is goal 3, which is, I think, probably been something dear to my heart for a long time, is we will continue to provide wellness and mindful activities and resources for all staff. We do have a wellness library that we created last year, and we sent an email reminder to faculty and staff. We added a couple new activities on there. I think we added 2 recipes. We provided access to a gratitude challenge in December. That was kind of a 20-day gratitude challenge. And actually 68 staff across the district participated, which is more than usual. For the PD Day, we provided inspiration cards and apple slices, and I will tell you, it is amazing how little tokens of appreciation, little tokens are appreciated by the staff. You give them a little card and they think, oh my gosh, this is really awesome. So, and we did at Baker we did a healthy challenge. There were about 30 teachers that did a challenge before spring break. Colleen Natali, when you look at what's going on at Reynolds, she has pickleball before school, so she's kind of getting the staff involved. And as Jen mentioned, I was going to kind of just brush through this. Each year we do what I would call an annual wellness inquiry, because it's not really a survey. It's designed to kind of give the wellness committee some information so that we can provide information back to staff. And that is included in the executive content. I think we probably spend 5 to 10 minutes at least, especially at the last wellness meeting, talking about the state mental health and with the kids, but also with our providers, with our teachers. And you'll find some of the comments lend to that. I think we did this in 2019, and we sent it out before anything happened. I think it was in December. And I remember Joe saying in May, wow, I wonder what would happen if you sent this out now, because we went into remote. And what was interesting, and I did put this in the report, is that compared to the last 2 years, so one of the questions is, stress is the response to adverse or demanding circumstances. Please rate your level of agreement with the following statement. I am handling feelings of stress well, and I'm able to manage it. So in 2019, there were 242 responses. And level 1 is I'm really having a hard time handling my stress. At that point, 3.6 people answered level 1. This year, 12.6 people reported they were at a level 1. I'm really having a difficult time handling my stress. So I thought that was interesting, but that's all data. Only 159 people responded this year. And so, across the district, people will talk to stress. And so what I also added this year was a question kind of talking to what stress is, right? So Yale has done a great study on emotions and what emotions really mean, and people will say I'm stressed. Well, there's different reasons, and sometimes it's anxiety, right? Fear of what's uncertain. Sometimes being stressed is being overwhelmed. So I broke down, this Mark Brackett, who did this study at Yale, I broke down what he would call stress, and asked people, trying to identify what is creating your stress. And I think you'll find that feeling overwhelmed was the top answer. So I'm going to invite you to go through this. It's hard to say. I feel in the district we have made little baby steps to helping our teachers feel more well. I think there's a lot we could do. I don't know what that looks like, but I would invite anybody. I would be happy to kind of look to see what that might look like, because have the opportunity to sub. I know the climate at Baker pretty well, but just being across the district, people are going to be really ready for summer vacation this year. And I think we thought things were going to be better, but people are still really, really tired. And I think as a board, it's important for you guys to know that and acknowledge, because you'd be surprised how much just the acknowledgement means to people. That's all.
So that's it from a wellness point of view. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go over the school lunch portion of report for the year here. So this year has been a bit challenging, as it has been on a lot of fronts out there, but primarily for us, the staffing and procurement are kind of the two highlights of challenges for the school year for food service. We've started out the year doing pretty well with staff, but throughout the different courses of the year, we've had staff that have been out, positions that have been vacant for a good portion of the year. We've done some recent recruiting at the job fair, and it looks like we've got some results from that. But that staffing seems to be a challenge that's probably not going to go away as we move forward in the next year. Procurement, on the other hand, there's not a good indicator that procuring food and supplies as we move forward for next year is going to improve a whole lot. There seems to be a lot of reasons why supplies and food are not readily available, but every week we work hard to make sure that we have both food products and supply products on hand in order to take care of our students. So we've had the deal where this year there's been increased participation with all students eating for no charge, and then a struggle to get all the products we have in. So that's been one of the challenges for this year as well. You know, our comparison of participation in looking back to 2018-19, which is really the last year where we had a full, I guess what you'd call a normal year, our lunch participation is about 40% over that particular year. And at breakfast, we're way more than doubled at least participation. So there has been an increase with that participation, which has been outstanding and great for our budget. We think that we've introduced some kids to and students to a lot of the things that we offer, and hope that comes back. And we've generated some new customers for next year. Next year, family applications will be back in place. So this year, the families did not need to fill out a free reduced application if they were looking to get assistance with with meals for their students and all. But next year, those are going to be back in place. So those waivers that are in place for this current school year will be ending at the end of June. So that's something that we're going to be working on moving forward here. So the waivers expire on June 30th. Again, it's been great this year, seeing all the students come through the serving lines. We've served breakfast in a lot of different ways. You know, in some buildings, kids come through the serving lines. Sometimes we take it right out to the buildings right near, or the classrooms rather, right near the classrooms where the students are coming in the building, and grab that and head right to their classrooms. So we've adapted to take advantage of letting all the kids eat for no charge. Next year, with that being off the table, we're going to end up having the students come through serving lines, which will be a bit different, and we anticipate that is going to probably reduce pretty significantly the number of students that do come through for breakfast. The other part of that's been great this year as well is that the reimbursement rate from the USDA has been increased over previous years. So not only are we feeding all the students for no charge, but the reimbursement rate from the USDA has been up as well. So that is a combination of those two has been quite a windfall as we've taken care of all the students. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the free reduced applications will be back in play for next year. And there's going to be a limited number of rollover. Typically, we can roll over students for the first 30 days of school. If they had a free reduced application this year, that they can, that'll apply to the first 30 days of school until they get their next application in. But with so few applications coming in this year, probably less than 50 in the whole district, there's going to be some struggles at the beginning of the year in order to get everybody up to speed. So it's going to take a little bit of a public relations push to get that information out to everybody for the next year. So looking at total meals, just to give you an idea, this year we're going to serve about total meals about 625,000 meals in the district between breakfast and lunch, compared to 2018-19 was around 390,000. So it's a pretty significant difference on that, and we did it with what I would say limited staff this year as well. So, and, you know, on the staffing front, our folks that have been with us all year have worked really hard and been very flexible. There's times where I have staff that'll work in more than one building in a day just to make things go. As you know, in some of our buildings, we only have two food service workers in there. So if somebody is out, we need to shift and pivot a little bit and get people into the buildings. And they've done a great job with that the whole year long. We also had an intern this year from Syracuse University. Each year in the last several years, we've had a registered dietitian intern come in, and as part of their education, they work with us for up to 6 weeks or so. And it gives them a kind of an overview of what a school lunch director does, and then they get to see school lunch in action from, you know, not only from how we do things, but also from a dietitian point of view on that. Our intern this year worked with our wellness clubs, did some student surveys, did some food sampling with students up at the high school as well. So it's kind of invigorating to see, you know, someone that's pretty motivated to get out there and learn some new things and all. So challenges for next year, staffing, as I mentioned before, will continue to be a challenge as I see it. Although we've had pretty good success with the job fair, and hope that continues if we do that in the future. Procurement-wise, you know, food costs, we're anticipating probably 12 to 15% higher than it is this year. And then supplies probably even more. You know, one of the things that, as you know, that we no longer are able to use the expanded styrofoam trays and such, and you know, the replacement on those is about 11 or 12 cents more per tray, so per meal. And then same, you know, with plastic silverware and those types of things. Things that we use are all continuing to go up in price, especially as the supplies seems to be somewhat limited. Many of the products that we're going to be using for next year are not manufactured in the U.S. like the other trays that we've been using for years. So the challenge to get those at a reasonable price, we work through BOCES with our bidding process and all for our small wares and supplies, paper goods and all that. So we're continuing to try and figure out better ways, more cost-effective ways to get food to the kids and then onto the table without making it onto the floor. I'm anticipating next year probably our participation will probably drop down into the 350,000 range, down from probably 650 this year. And the rate for reimbursement is not set by the USDA for next year yet. So, you know, currently we're getting about $4.62 per meal at lunchtime. In years gone by, it's been more in the neighborhood of around $3.65 or so. So about $1 less than that. So we don't know yet what that reimbursement rate is going to be per meal, which really will impact on what we do for next year as far as balancing our budget and such. So, but it's likely that it's going to be lower next year than it is this year. And the last thing, I'm retiring in July 31st, but I just want to make sure I say thanks to the Board of Education. Over the years, 20 years worth here, it's been a pleasure to work with the board and always been very supportive of food service, and really truly appreciate that. You know, that's been a real highlight of my career coming into this. I was not in school lunch prior to this, but in the restaurant business and all. But it's great to see the support that we've had over the years from all the folks currently and in the past for the board. But it's been great to serve the students throughout the district. I was doing a little quick math earlier. We average probably about 400,000 meals a year that we serve the students. Over 20 years, it's probably been about 8 million meals that we have taken care of students over that time frame. So, but couldn't do it without our staff, and certainly our food service staff are the ones, they're the frontline folks that do it day in and day out. So they're the ones that deserve the kudos on that. But any questions that you guys have, I'd be happy to answer.
Brian?
Yep.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for the dedication you've had for our students and our community. You're ending your career on a very challenging time, and you and your staff nicely. I just want to say, this is my 5th year on the board, my 5th year on the wellness committee. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you and Kristen. I don't know if some of my newer board colleagues even know that Kristen's retired and she's just still helping the district along with this committee along with you. And, I get nervous, what's going to happen next year, because you guys both aren't technically going to be employed with the district much longer. But I will say that I will miss seeing you at those 7 a.m. meetings.
Thank you for the kind words, I appreciate it.
Ryan, I have, well, first, I have absolutely want to thank you for what you've done for the district over the last 2 decades. It's, it's an enormous undertaking, and thank you for that. But one thing you mentioned that I didn't think of is that the applications for reduced and free lunch were probably way down because nobody needed to.
That's correct, yeah, that's exactly
So
right.
what can we do to make sure that those students who might get free or reduced lunch next year don't suffer? How do we combat that?
Yeah, so we send out, free reduced applications go out to the families, and in the past, we've actually done a mailing. They're available online at this point in time, but working with like Carrie Lamacchia, we're looking at when they do the stuff a bus supply thing, that we're gonna have applications available at those locations starting once they're out. Those applications are not available yet. Those come from USDA to state ed to us, or the river and through the woods. So we'll hopefully have those within the month and have those readily available early in the summer. The other thing, we meet with our BOCES directors on a regular basis, and we've all talked about this and thinking that it would be great if we, and I'll approach our professional organization, the New York State School Nutrition Association. Every district is going to be in the same boat with this, is having some sort of public relations thing, or maybe news releases and such that start in August. That would be a way to keep it in the forefront, because it is going to be a big deal. Schools that operate under the community eligibility provision, ones that typically have a higher free and reduced percent, it's not as big a deal. They don't need to do those applications except for once every 5 years. But districts that are below 50% free and reduced, and we're in the 27-29% range, have to fill out those applications every single year. So there are plenty of districts out there that are going to be in a similar situation as us. But I think with our efforts of having it on the website, working with Sarah to getting it out there, Carrie Lamacchia and her social workers and such, all of those things, it's going to need to be a full court press really starting at the beginning of August, to get that out there, because there's other things I'm sure that those numbers affect, not just for school lunch, but probably some other financing as well for the district.
The other thing is, we've already started talking about it with our administrative team, with our building level principals, with the directors. So it's on people's radars. So as they're, coming across people, or we can continue to try to make those connections as we get closer to next year.
Thank you. And to follow that up, and I don't know if this is permissible or not, maybe something we can look into further. Do we have like a generic my school lunch account for students who may not have the application and need something where, so donations could be taken?
Sure.
And those students could, discreetly get a lunch without anybody realizing or
yeah, so we feed every student that comes through the line and gets a lunch. We'll get the lunch whether they have money or not. I mean, that's just the New York State has what's called a Shaming Act or whatever, and so any student that comes through the line is going to get a meal. That's just the way it is. I mean, they'll still get rung in and be on their account. And then we can identify pretty quickly who those families are that may need follow-up, whether it's from us or a social worker, whoever, or assistance filling out the application. But we get a pretty good read by the middle to end of September on who those families might be that need some help. And I suspect with the way the economy is going right now that, there may be more and more people that used to be in that gray area that they're going to be, struggling as other things go up, with inflation. Good point.
Those are great questions, Tony. I think that there's a kind of two prongs to the approach. One is awareness and the other is stigma. So, trying to combat both of those.
This whole process of feeding all the students has been great. It really is. It's an even playing field for everybody. Kids come in the morning, they're hungry, they grab breakfast. If they've already eaten at home, they don't, but nobody gives it a second thought. Same at lunch, and it's too bad that the USDA can't come up with a plan to finance that. Do everything else, you'd think they'd be able to do that, spend money.
I just also want to thank Brian, and to have somebody here who not just wants to put food on the tables out there, but really cares and really has the service attitude that you do, is really a benefit. So, I appreciate everything you've done for the district over your time here.
Thanks.
Dittos to what my colleagues had said as well, so thank you for what you've done for our kids. A slightly different question, because they took all my other questions. One question I have is, and I can't remember the name of the tool that we were using before for that parents can put money onto the kids.
Yeah, My School Bucks. Yep.
Okay. So after going into the pandemic, there was likely balances on some of those accounts. Will those balances be available to those families that are still in the district, or has that been?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we can roll them over to siblings that we do that. Once the students graduate, and maybe we can get Sarah on this, but we usually give them about 6 months to do something with that money, to roll it over to a sibling or request, the refund, which we do as well.
Hey, Brian, I want to reiterate once again what everybody's saying. I mean, it's an outstanding job, and I thank you for everything that you've done for the district. And I won't tell them that we walked up the stairs again and you were rethinking your retirement. But we'll talk about that.
I think that was a mirage.
Question I have for you is more on the supply and demand side when you were speaking earlier. Is the issue, is there other vendors we can go to, or is the issue just that our trucks aren't running, COVID, everything like that?
It's a struggle, and there's a whole bunch of things. We haven't been able to get a school qualified hamburger all year from Advanced Pierre, who we send commodity money off to them to produce burgers for us for the year, simply aren't producing that. They're producing other stuff, but they're not doing school quality stuff. We have different regulations than the public would have, let's say for a burger or a chicken patty or whatever. So it's just been crazy that they've chosen, in many cases, to manufacture things that I believe are more profitable for them, but not necessarily what we need. So we might have a selection of whether it's a popcorn chicken or a nugget or a tender or a patty. There's 5 different meals in a month. They've chosen to make popcorn chicken, and that's it. And they make more money off of it, and maybe they claim that it's their manufacturing process. They don't have enough people. It's easier to manufacture that. Who knows if that's really the case or not? But we're faced with that on a lot of different fronts. So whether it's chicken, whether it's burgers or whatever, that seems to be the case. Everybody's pointing at everybody else on the thing. Some are pointing to the trucking industry, that they can't get the raw commodity to the manufacturers. Who knows what the deal is, but in talking to the food brokers that are out there, they don't see it as improving significantly, maybe by January, but probably not by fall. So you'll notice this year, the menu was pretty limited, and what I ran at was what I could get my hands on. There hasn't been a mini pancake. One of the top 3 items that our students like are the mini pancakes. There hasn't been a mini pancake available since October. Now, you'd think with all the manufacturers out there, you could get your hands on that. But it baffles me that somebody out there can't make that. So it's manufacturing. They're blaming labor in some cases, trucking, commodity availability. Who knows where, in the tail on the donkey of what it really is on that. But it's left us high and dry more than once, so that's why we have on our menu subject to change without notice. Sometimes, even last week, I had 6 items that didn't come in on a truck, 60 cases of something that was supposed to come in that was on the menu this week. So we figured it out and do something different. But we still meet the guidelines, you know, 4 rabbits out of our head.
Brian, I just wanted to thank you for your years of service to the district. I had the opportunity to meet you first a few years ago at Van Buren when it was a parent breakfast. And you're very warm and welcoming, and it was just nice to see the face behind our food service here. And I hope that's one thing that whoever replaces you may continue to do. And the struggles are real, and I don't think many people stop and think of, you know, talk about mental wellness and the stressors of things like you just described. We're short 60 cases of something, or you really have to go into quick mode to figure out how we're going to make this meet the standards in which you do. So thank you for that. I did have one question as far as much as supply and demand, but I don't know what the equipment is now or that you have at the different buildings, and I'm sure you may have thought about this, but instead of, you said about supplies, utensils, what about going back to old school per se with regular utensils or trays that could be utilized being through a wash system?
Sure. Yeah, that's a consideration. But right now we operate our elementary specifically with 2 people. It means adding another person on. Got 5 openings right now. But that is not out of the question. We still have the trays available in storage and such. But it means bringing, you know, more people on, and then chemicals and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
The dish machines and all that. Yeah, we look at that, and probably the cost comparison of washing a tray will be closer than it has been when we were, styrofoam was so cheap that, you know, it was 3.8 cents a tray. New ones are about 15 cents a piece on that. So, you know, it probably gets closer. Washing the tray is from a reasonable point.
Quick question, Brian.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure working with you over the last 11 years, so good luck in your new endeavors.
Yep.
Just came up this morning, my daughter mentioned to me about grabbing something at the coffee shop, and I guess I hadn't heard anything, how that's doing, how, you know, is the original vision still working well?
I'll tell you what, we've actually are in the process of, a while back we approved that, you folks approved the food service helper 2 to manage that. I'm actually going to make that a full-time position for someone next year to take it to the next level. It's been outstanding. Kids have really warmed up to it, and teachers as well. So Drew, our cook manager there, you know, fresh baked breakfast sandwiches and all those types of things in the morning. There's no, as far as guidelines go, there's no limit on you know, caffeine. So serving coffee is an okay thing to do there. So we do coffee and cold brew and those types of things. It's been a real hit. But we think that there's, we operate now from 7 until 12:30, looking at maybe extending that to get some of the athletes and after school things going there, and maybe getting some healthier options for our athletes that are sitting in a study hall that's captive audience, you know, for 45 minutes, that, you know, maybe they want a healthy smoothie or something. So we're looking at improving that and getting someone in there that can focus on that. But it has it's done a great job this year. We'll probably gross about $120,000, $125,000 out of that this year. So it's been pretty good. People from other districts, when they come, and they drool over that, let me tell you. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you for your years of service. It's been a pleasure. Kim?
This is probably the last projection that the board will see as we're wrapping up the year. So we've been doing these based on the financials that are approved. So this report's as of April 30th. The first column is what all of our budget numbers were, the 21-22 budget revenue. The first column of numbers, I should say, I'm sorry, after the account names. And then we have our projection based on what we saw as of April 30th, and then what we're anticipating for the end of the year. So when you look down through here, The bottom line numbers in the yellow at the very, very bottom, after everything is said and done with our appropriating our fund balance and our reserves, we are looking to be potentially bringing in a little more revenue overall than what our expenses are. Not a whole lot. That can be attributed to the reconciliation process that Tiffany has been very active in to try to make sure that some of those state aid numbers are coming in as, well, we're projecting them as we believe they come in versus just what's on the state aid run. So if we flip over to the fund balance plan, the fund balance plan will be coming to the board at the reorg meeting. We talked about that at the audit committee. This is our reconciliation that we've been doing throughout the year. So we're trying to take a look at where we would be with funding our reserves, and those resolutions will be on the agenda tonight. Were mentioned during roundtable as well. So we're looking at our adopted budget. We take out anything that was encumbered or expense to date, and then we continue to update anything that we think we may spend. That number, that 200,000, continues to be less and less as we go through the year. If you can move up just a little bit. So we take a look at where we are with our revenues. We're not projecting an overage right now. We always like to do our projections as conservatively as possible because there are a lot of moving parts, and we still do have some time in the year that, especially with our infrastructure, we could be spending some money that we aren't anticipating. I think we had that happen today, as a matter of fact, with a piece of equipment that failed us. So we're taking a look. If you look down to the bottom, we are looking, we're projecting, I should say, at 3 million over our 4%. So that would be what we would be looking to put into a reserve. The reserve resolutions are up to amounts because we don't know these things, but it's nice to have them all approved in the current year before we close the books. And then once we go through the audit process, the audit committee will look at that audit in September, and then the actual audit will come to the Board of Education, first board meeting in October, so that we can have all of our financials submitted to the state in a timely fashion by the middle of October. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Kim. I think, Joe, we have some textbooks coming up.
Yes, so we have 3 texts. The first one under Report B, the Iliad is a graphic novel that will appear on the agenda at the next meeting for second reading and approval. I know we had information in the weekly letter about graphic novels just to help explain their purpose and the rigor. In the next report for textbook C, both C and D. C is Warcross, and D is the Hunger Games, and those are 2 texts that center around the theme Hero's Journey, and so they'll be a part of choice unit for the new ELA grade 9 course that is being offered at Durkee that the board approved earlier in the school year. Any questions?
Anything stick out on them that we need to?
No. Thank you.
Alrighty, that moves us into new business. And we're back on textbooks here. We have resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of, is that geodes or goads? How do you say that? Does anybody know? Geodes, okay. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of Geodes Decodable Readers by Geodes Great Minds Publishers, variety of authors, to be used in grades 1 and 2, ELA classes, and all elementary schools pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion? Second? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Good to go. Next textbook, resolve the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of Flyleaf Decodable Readers by Flyleaf to be used in grade K classes in all elementary schools pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, it was Michelle and Tony on that one. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 9-0. No, there's only two, right? Okay, now we are looking at some new policies. Second reading, resolved that the Board of Education approve the Baldwinsville Central School District Policies Series 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, revised, reviewed, pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Is that Jeff? And second, Matt. And conversation? Everybody's good to go? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good to go. And, sorry. Okay, D, resolution resolved that the Board of Education approve the employment agreement between the Baldwinsville Central School District and Elaine Woodridge for continued employment with the Baldwinsville Central School District effective May 12, 21 through December 31st, 2022 pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Joan, and a second? Tony. Any discussion?
Just a grammatical error, that should be May 12, 2022, just for the record. We'll
Okay.
update that in the minutes.
Yes, ma'am. And good to go. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. Resolve the Board of Education approve the appointment of chairperson, machine technician, VSS specialist, election inspectors, chief election inspectors, and assistant poll clerks for the Baldwinsville Central School District 2022 through 2023 budget vote and school board elections held on May 17th, 2022 pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Joan, and second?
Second.
Jeff. Discussion?
Just maybe a quick comment on, just to, for Mrs. Kopp's question earlier this evening, this will be a process-related answer that we'll provide as well. Thanks.
I just have a question as to why we're approving it now after the fact.
Well, we approved it before, but I think there were modifications to this one. They had to be changed, so it still has to be formally approved, correct?
You are correct. So we did a training with our legal team prior to the board election, and there was some recommendations about making sure we had people dual appointed. And we did add some additional people as well because we had some people that were ill at the last minute that could not participate in the polls that day. Thank you.
Good to go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. And to resolve that the Board of Education accept the independent audit reports for the Baldwinsville Central School District for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022 that were prepared by Bonadillo and Company LLP certified public accountants and the district's corrective action plan pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion? Joan, second. Second, Tony. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 9-0. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the award of the automotive supplies bid number 391 pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion? Jeff, second.
Second.
Who was it?
Second.
Alrighty, any conversation? All good, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good to go. And resolve that the Board of Education approve the OCM BOCES annual services agreements pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Joan, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Resolved that the Board of Education approve the disposal of surplus equipment and instructional materials pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Tony, and second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Alrighty, moving to 3. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the resolution to adjust the June 30, 2022 year-end reserve balances pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion? A second? Okay. Any conversation? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the Baldwinsville Central School District budget and Board of Education election vote results from May 17, 2022 pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion? Joan? Second. Jeff? Any conversation?
Again, this is just trying to understand the part. So this is certifying the election results from this. Okay. So just a question for my colleagues. Are we, due to the question, I'm not just, I think we should, my opinion is that we should continue on, but I am concerned about the questions that did come in, and it's not just from our speaker this evening. It's been several that have come through. So as long as we're good with the policy in the district, then we just keep focused, but bring it up.
Everybody is good? No issues? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 9-0. And resolved that the Board of Education approve the bond resolution for the purchase authorization for student transportation vehicles for the Baldwinsville Central School District pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Joan and Jeff, is it? Joan and Matt? Joan and Matt. That is a roll call, right? Kim?
Would Jeff read first?
Matt's
So I will be ready for the roll call. Jeff?
Aye.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Denise? Anthony?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next one is also a roll call. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the bond resolution for the Baldwinsville Central School District 2022 capital project pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Joan, second.
Second.
Second, Jeff. And any questions or anything? That is also a roll call.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Matt?
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Denise? Anthony?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to board roundtable. I didn't get anything from Jen. Does anybody have anything?
I do, I'm sorry, Brian, consider a rough day. I just wanted to, ask the board, we purchased Super Eval, which we're using for Jason, and he's using with his cabinet for evaluation, and there is that board component, that he just Jill mentioned a number of times how important it is to do a team review, help us improve it as we move forward. How do we want to handle that? I know if we're getting to the end of the year, we want to definitely have it done, obviously, by the end of June. Should we just have like a doodle poll sent out to see about availability?
Yeah, John, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I would agree.
I agree.
Yep.
So Jason, can, you have, how should we do this? We need to look at the calendars and have Christie send something out. I know we have a lot of things plugged in here between now and the end of the year, but it's important, as you said, the whole idea of these things to agree about is kind of getting everyone moving in the same direction. So I wanted to make sure that we were able to, we did that and we're moving forward.
Yes, ma'am, I'll have Christy do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You good, Jen?
Yes, that was it. Thanks, Brian.
Anything else from anybody that we want to discuss? Alrighty then, let's move on. Resolve that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to the Taylor Law to discuss the contract, the employment history of a particular person or corporation, or the medical, financial, or credit history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. A matter made confidential by attorney-client privilege. Have a motion.
Move.
Second. Okay, moving. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, passes 9-0. 5 minutes, good.